Yo, yo, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All righty, all righty.
All the way live.
Get a quick share in here and we gonna do this.
All the way live.
All right.
All the way live.
All right, Source, how you
Uh,
feeling this morning, bro?
Bro, I'm feeling good, feeling great, feeling tired, but I'm all right though, you know. Over
Trust me.
D, over da, life goes on.
Trust me, I know that feeling all too well. But
Indeed.
in all my tiredness and dragging this morning, I'm feeling pretty good because we are doing a movie today that I've been itching to do for a very long time. So, and this is the last episode of the season for Run It Back because we have NFL and college football right among us. So we're gonna dive into some NFL next week, but we definitely had to slide this in. So anybody that catches this, welcome to Run It Back. And today's movie is going to be Friday Night Lights. So,
Yes,
is you
sir.
ready?
Yeah, man. You know, we've been talking about doing this movie for a long time. Actually, we got a couple of them that we've been talking about doing for a
Yeah.
long time. And you know, the summer gets past us real quick sometimes. But we've done quite a few movies. I don't know how many movies we're up to. A good 15. Got to be a good 15.
Yeah, got to be up there somewhere. Hey,
Yeah.
man.
So
Yeah, so we're gonna hit up Friday Night Lights today, man, and it's based on a true story that happened in West Texas back in 1988. And it's based off a true story. Not everything in it happened exactly the way it happened, and we'll detail that somewhat going through this here movie, man. But it was directed by Peter Berg, screenplay by David Aaron Cohen. And yeah, man, it's a movie like you mentioned we've been looking for doing for a long time, and I think it's a movie that truly symbolizes high school football, especially in the state of Texas. And if you've never, we've seen high school football in Texas, like on ESPN, and you get a kind of a feel nowadays that they're showing these games on how big these games are. But if you've never attended a game, you still may never really know. Like down here in the 804 we like, hey man, shoot, was like a couple of thousand people at the game last night. Say a couple of thousand out there in Texas. People look like you crazy, man. Out there where they got 8 and 10 and sometimes 15,000 people sometimes attending regular season games. So it's great, man. But it focuses on a school, Permian, the Permian Panthers, uh, in Texas, man, and they call him Mojo. We don't really hear too much about the nickname actually in this movie. Just call him the Mojo in this movie, but it's a star-studded cast, man. And the thing about this movie that sets the table really, really well is that it starts off with all the players heading to the field to basically start preseason for the most part, and in which they are already in pads like day one. Realistically, in most fronts, that's really not allowed. But we see Mike Winchell, the quarterback here, played by Lucas Black, and Mike Winchell, of course, is sitting at the table with his mother, going over the playbook. And it would seem his mom might know a little more about the playbook than he does, but she loves her baby, she loves her son, she wants him to do well, not only because it's Texas and it's football and how big it is down there, but she's hoping it leads him somewhere. And we also get to see one of the big stars in this movie, Boobie Miles, played by Derek Luke, running down the street. We presume he's coming out of his neighborhood because there's a bunch of kids out there following him, and he's on his way to the field, and they meet up in front of the stadium, of course, and then some of the other main characters that we see throughout the movies are pulling up. One of them is already there, so it just sets the stage perfectly for me.
yeah, beginning of the season. I mean, probably been looking forward to it all summer. Just waiting for this first day of practice. Get to hit somebody. And of course, like you mentioned, we see the stars of the movie. QB, you got Billingsley, the backup running back, whose story is big in the movie, and of course, as you mentioned, Booby Miles.
Yeah, Boobie Miles, man. What a character, man. What a character. Especially in this movie. Um, and I'm gonna start there because he is one of the, I call it, the shining lights of this film. Derek Luke was, to me, was really good in this role, man. He was charismatic. He was funny. He was fully into himself. Um, but he was that guy. But it seems like every high school football team or former football player could go back and tell you it was probably a guy, maybe not always with the talent of Boobie Miles, but it had that same character, man. And I think Derek Luke was truly awesome in this movie, man.
Absolutely. His character, as you were saying that, I was just thinking, uh, trying to compare it to hip hop and what it reminded me of, regardless of he's a great actor, one, but even if he wasn't a great actor, his character that he was playing brought so much out of him. And it was so, his character was so, my favorite new word is bombastic, because it reminds me of the two, maybe three best song enders, like Hip Hop Posse Cuts enders, Busta or M or DMX. When you have, like, regardless of what they say, it doesn't matter. It's their personality, you feel it, and you feel it in the moment, and that's what brings that character to life, that excitement, even over the actual acting.
Yeah, and his character and the way he played it also brought us, it kind of symbolized hope a little bit because while some of his teammates thought he was like crazy and outlandish and a lot of mouth, you had actually a young third string running back that actually kind of looked up to him, Chris Coleman, in this movie. And nothing symbolizes that more, points that out more than, if you remember in the movie, he walks up, he calls him Waterbug and asks
Yeah.
him, he's Waterbug, you got a girl yet? You got your girlfriend yet? And he was like, no, you ain't got no girl. He said, you know why you ain't got no girl? Because of them shoes on your feet. And he had on a pair with some white Adidas,
Yeah,
whatever.
why the dudes?
And your boy Booby tell him straight up, say, no, you won't get a girl, man. You got everybody know you got to have these black Nikes, man. These black Nikes will get the girl. And everybody looking at him like, here we go again. He full of himself. And of course, preacher man, Ivory Christian, he looks over the big preacher man, don't speak much, and like, ain't that right? And he was like, man, I can flatten you in a pair of flip flops. And he was like, well, you can do that. But Booby gonna be stunting on him, in these here Nikes, and he put his Nike cleats up there. And what we see, just as the coach tell them they got to get out there on the field, they're heading out to go practice. Chris Coleman's still sitting there in the locker room painting his sneakers black with a permanent marker.
Yeah, man, that was heavy. So, I mean, if you played a sport, of course, you might have somebody that looked up to you that was younger. You'd be a senior and they're a freshman.
Yeah.
But this was that type of relationship, at least at the beginning. And you see that in that moment, he's like, I'm by myself, everybody gone. Booby said this. Let me go ahead and do this and paint these joints. Paint, I say paint. He had a marker.
We had a marker.
Marker these joints. So they look more like what Booby said it's supposed to be.
Shout out to all the listeners and the watchers in the SBP. Chauncey, what's up? Yeah, he talking about Waterbug and the Black Nikes, no doubt. Clark Griswold in the house, no doubt. Conway Liddy.
Conway Liddy on both
And
sides.
Whitfield.
How's he doing that? We
Appreciate
live on
y'all,
TikTok as
man.
well.
Yeah, man. But yeah, Booby brought a lot of hope in this movie too. Well, brought some hope to one or two people, and then and of course to himself. He was according to him, he was hope for everybody. He was that guy for everybody. And this we mentioned Mike Winchell early, quarterback, mother going over plays and stuff with him. He seemed to be the guy, or one of maybe the two guys in this film with the most on their shoulders, like the heaviest burden. And Mike Winchell was kind of all over the place because if you watch this movie, um, when Coach asked him at some point, "Do you want to leave? Don't you want to get out of here? Don't you want to get out of Dust in the whole?" Everything was, "I think so." And it's kind of like he didn't really know what he wanted to do. He had a mother who was obviously on medication, so I think he was worried about leaving his mother. In real life, we find out he actually was a really, really good student. So the way they portrayed this in the movie was just him and his mother. But if you ever read up on his story, he had a brother, and his father he was super close with.
So there was a father in real life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
In real life, there was a father and a brother that he really, really looked up to,
because
and
he did talk to the brother on the phone,
about coming
right?
home.
Yeah, about coming home. So they can kind of bring in the brother, but not very much. But yeah, there's no mention of a father at any point, I don't think, in the movie.
Yeah, so we had a lot of the brother had a lot of pressure on him, man. Like he did, he's running a football team. He got to answer to everybody. Well, all the players had to answer to somebody. They could even go to a 7-Eleven with police rolling up on them. Hey, y'all good? Y'all gonna win state? You go out there,
Right.
y'all good? Y'all gonna win state? Everything was about y'all going. The real one is not just winning state, just the fact that they ask you, y'all going undefeated. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
they put that on top of that joint. It's like
Yo,
if you say, yeah, we gonna make it more difficult. Oh yeah? Y'all going undefeated? Y'all gonna shut everybody out? Did that come up? Because that was the next question, probably.
yeah, could you imagine like telling, somebody in the community, that small community, that you're going undefeated, and then that Friday night y'all lose, and then you really want to go hang out at the mall or something with your people?
Not only lose as they did, but the second game that we see,
Mhm.
but lose 49-6. Dog, you got to be in the house. You can't be outside. You can't be outside.
Yeah, they got it pretty good, especially right after Booby getting hurt. Um, which I'm gonna touch on that again a little bit later. But Booby getting hurt, they was kind of like they didn't know which way to go. They really had to try to find themselves. But I'm gonna tell you how big it was for a Texas program, and then for Booby is we mentioned the fact they were already in pads actually to start training camp. There was
Right.
also already scouts there. There were scouts first day of practice.
Now, that's kind of wild though, because once you get to the end of the movie and you see the story of the person as it goes throughout their life, I won't mention it. I don't know if we'll talk about it later, but only one guy that was a senior got a scholarship, right?
Hmm.
Or an offer, I should say.
Right. No, no, well, it's two.
Who was the second one?
Preacher man,
Yeah, preacher and who
Chavo.
did he play
Chavo.
football?
Well, he went to school. I read somewhere before that he actually did play football, even though he went on
Because he
a
went to Harvard.
yeah, yeah. They said he played. Now, how was it? Did he play for a year? Scouts? I don't know. I didn't hear much about his career beyond that. And then if we're venturing over a little bit further down the line, before I forget about it, Mike Winchell actually
Right.
he actually did play football for about a year, but football just didn't really pan out for him.
Yeah, he went to Baylor.
Yeah, but we speak about all the pressure he had on his shoulders. Billy Bob Thornton is Coach Gaines. Now that's pressure, bro. This because at the beginning you hear when it comes on and you hear the radio talk and the people calling into these talk shows and they're talking about him making about $50,000, a year to be a coach, which is a little bit more than what the principal was already making. Like
Hmm.
this is really a big deal. So when we started to talk about pressure, and we saw that through a lot of the reaction and a lot of the things that Coach Gaines did and what he went through the movie. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think it was like $60,000, and dude said he could make $100,000 if they go undefeated. It's worth it. Yeah, they do not care. For those who don't know, I mean, Brian mentioned it at the beginning. High school football in Texas is like D1 football wherever. That it's the same feel, same seriousness, same level of we got to win. It's like that. Like if you think wherever you live, football is a big deal outside of Florida, I guess Florida's the other one, right?
Yeah.
So outside of those two, if you live somewhere else and you think football is a big deal, it probably is for some people. But it seems like in Texas, football is a big deal for everybody.
Yeah, they shutting down the whole town. We saw the scene
Right.
before the game. Cleaners closed, the diner closed, the corner mart closed, everybody closed. Car salesman. You know, Brad Leland's character. Now, if you're not quite sure what Brad Leland is, he played John Aubrey in this movie. He was a booster. He was one of the well, the lead guy really. He had all the ties of community. So they were
Oh,
talking about that 100,000. They'd have got it for him if he'd have won it for real.
He looks like he is that guy. He played that character, and he looks like he is that guy in real life, or could be that guy in real life.
Well, I don't know if you knew this because I don't know if you and I think we had this conversation maybe years ago when we first started doing podcasts, but he plays in the TV show too.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's not the same name, but he's really the exact same character
Hmm.
in the movie. You know what I'm saying? In the TV show is in the movie. Big Booster um, thinks he's really got a hand in on the program, and they're talking to the coaches about what they should do. Are we gonna move somebody to the middle? You ever think about running this particular defense? We got to get this guy over here from this school. Like he was like really that guy.
Do you? Okay. For those who don't know, if you're in the area or in Virginia, Prime went to.
L.C. Bird.
I don't like to say it. I let him say it. Went to L.C. Bird,
Yeah.
It's like L.C. Bird, Highland Springs, and I guess in recent history, are two of the biggest schools as far as high school football. Do you think, I know you probably know the answer to this question, do you think that this type of thing happens at that level in this area?
Yeah. I ain't gonna say no more, but yeah. And
Yeah.
I'll say this: if I'm not the only person out there, but if there was anybody that would know, um, based on people that I know, I'm just
Right.
gonna leave it at that. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's huge. This thing is huge, man. But and amazing to see how they can just flip on you too, because we saw one scene where with John Aubrey and all of them are sitting around a table and he's eating with Coach Gaines and his wife, played by the lovely Connie Britton, who also
Right.
plays the coach's wife in Friday Night Lights, the TV show.
Indeed.
And everything is all great because they can talk about football, they talk about winning, and when we find out later in the movie when they worried about winning a big game, they put no pressure on coach on things that could happen if he don't win the big game. So
Crazy.
like that's a hard life, bro. I don't know if I could live that. Much as I love the sport, I don't know if I could live that, bro.
I was going to ask you that actually earlier. Imagine just being the head coach of a team, one that is in Texas, but two that is good predominantly, and you're in your second year, and they're expecting big things from you, and then they kind of threaten your job with boosters if you don't win the state title. Not if you don't have a winning season, not if you don't win a division,
State?
not if you don't go to the playoffs. If you don't win the state title, dog, these people crazy. These people crazy.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of lingo too. Like you think about, I don't know, after I saw this movie, even though I'd heard it before, I could never get the term when you go win state out of my head. Just like I couldn't get out of my head about what Billy Bob Thornton coach could be perfect. Be perfect. I couldn't get out of my head. If you go to the TV show, all the time you see people post it a lot. You can tell who's a fan, who are fans of the show.
Right.
But clear eyes, full hearts can't lose. It's just
Yes,
certain
sir.
things. But it's real. This is not talk. This is real. This is really the feeling when you're playing in a big time program, and winning football is everything.
Again, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-olds. Just throwing it in. Go on.
Crazy, man. How you feel about Billy Bob's character as Coach Gaines in this movie?
You know, I like that. I like his demeanor when it came to dealing with the boosters, the outside pressures, all that stuff. All that stuff was dope. What I didn't like, gotta have something I didn't like. I didn't like, okay, when they're sitting at the table, his wife is there at dinner. His wife is two people down. The lady beside him is talking about football, and she hits him with the N word, talking
Right.
about Booby should play both ways. And it's like, I know it's an expectation in some places, and in some circles, you don't get that. Like you already know what you're gonna get. I don't know. I don't know. I guess being the coach, it wasn't a fight he was trying to have. He wasn't trying to have that fight.
That's what it was. He wasn't trying to have that fight, and I don't. As we can tell through the movie, we don't think he had that feeling at all because he was awfully fond of Booby. I don't
Right.
think if you know, the way he talked about Booby, it wasn't just the fact that yeah, he's a guy on my team and he's my best player. The general, you know, the conversation and the things he said in front of the team about Booby, I think he generally, I don't think that was him. You know what I'm saying? As far as being racist and things like that, I think he had a genuine love for Booby Miles. So, but they had to put that in there because that's real. I mean, let's be real. That's real.
Yeah,
Everybody,
I'm glad
your
they
football
did.
team and stuff, you good. So whatever. As soon as something mess around, date the daughter. That's a different story. But anyway, um, yeah,
So they the daughter.
you already know where I'm going with that. Right?
Yes, I do.
Um, Uncle LV, man. Wow, like that was I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this character in this movie. And every time I see him, as much as he loved Booby, and I understand that Booby could probably get them out of the situation. I think that he generally loved them. But every
Right.
time I see Uncle LV and I think about some of these other characters, I thought about something. And we don't know because we don't see everything. But we were talking about um, Winchell just seeing his mom home, right? Now, we assume there was a brother, or whatever, because of the phone call. And we look at Uncle LV as the uncle, but the father figure, but there was just Uncle LV. It's crazy, even though we don't see it. If I had to pick a character 100%, maybe two, but one maybe more than the other, then probably, if I was to see their family, I think we would probably see both parents, possibly. Now, I'm gonna remove Chavo out of this because I don't know, but Preacher Man. And the reason I
Right.
say that, now I can see Preacher Man, Ivory Christian being either, I could see him being without the father as the man in the house with the mother with the two baby sisters. I can see that. But I can also see him as the one with the stable home because of his demeanor, right?
Absolutely.
He didn't speak much. He was a quiet, but he was a man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And um, and as we see a lot of time in movies and TV shows too, like because he led the prayer and all that. So I assume maybe his father might have been a pastor. I don't know.
That's
But
what I
you
was gonna
always
say.
see the preacher's kid as the one who knows right, but quick to grab the good book. Might stray a little bit. I mean, with his friends, it is what it is. Like watching Papa on The Shy. You know what I'm saying? You know, like when he go to the party, he gonna check out the girls. You know, he might whatever. He ain't gonna go crazy,
Right.
but he gonna have some fun. But if I was to pick out of all of them, that would be the one that I would think if they showed it, I would think, you know what? We might see a mama and a father sitting at the table, at the table, kitchen table.
Yeah. But with a bunch of kids though, and Ivory or Preach was the oldest.
Yeah.
He felt like he was the oldest sibling, and even if it was both parents, he still had a lot of responsibility. Maybe the dad was a preacher. I don't know. We could probably Google it and find out for real. But maybe the dad was a preacher. Maybe the dad drove trucks because he ended up, later in life driving trucks
Yeah.
himself. So maybe his dad was gone a lot, and he had to be the one to step up with the mom and handle the closest thing to adult business that a kid can do.
Ricky said, Ricky said Dallas team was humanized.
Dog.
There's some boys back in the Tatum.
You know what I thought about?
Boys, but you probably know most of it, Rick. But yeah, they. Well,
I didn't think about it back when this movie first came out.
mm-hmm.
I didn't even think about it really when they had the documentary about the Dallas team. But
Carter High.
why wouldn't I know why? Why wouldn't the documentary or why wouldn't the movie have been about Carter High? You know what would have been interesting? If Carter High was the team that the movie was made about, and we had to see it from their point of view, but it's still Texas high school football. So even the people that may be racist, maybe, whatever,
they were still gonna watch the movie, in my opinion. I feel like they would still watch the movie because their love of football kind of transcends race when it comes to watching football. So I would think that they would see a story about Texas football, whether it was white or black, and be like, yo, I don't like them Negroes, but I'm gonna watch this movie. I'm gonna watch this movie.
Yeah, so they've had, and I think they could have gone a little more in depth, but I was grateful for what we had. But they had, of course, the documentary on the third, was it 30 for 30? Then they had the
Yeah,
actual
30 for 30.
Carter High. So they had Charles Dutton, Pooh Charles, some other people in it.
That joint was dope too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Buddy, yo. Anyway, let's see. I tell you one thing I did find funny though. You remember when things were going good? It was early, and I was like, and this is before or later when they started showing Winchell slinging the ball around a little bit. But he came up to him early and was like telling Mike Winchell he played a good game. He's playing a good game. He playing a good game. And I said to myself, all he doing is hand the ball off to Boo.
Bruh, for real. Because that man, I don't know if he could throw for real, but he could hand that joint off. Maybe he was just the leader.
Yeah.
You can't even say that. Because was he really a leader?
Well, that's interesting. And I hate to bring this up because but I kind of think of the way people thought about Romo because the real story, and I think they did a great job of depicting this because the real story was that he was actually a really good leader until they got into crunch time. And they said there was a history of him kind of cringing up a little bit at certain points. So if you look back at the game when they were playing, what was it, Midland, and they had the shot to nail that in the playoff spot without having to go into the deal, and he actually he throws that pass and looks like the receiver was open. He kind of sailed it a little bit, and they end up in a three-way tie situation and all that. So you think about crunch time, and you remember he was kind of upset about that. And later in the game, we also saw, of course, when they lost, they lost it all. He's sitting there, he's crying. We see him in tears a few times. It was just like, yeah, he was that guy.
Right.
He was a decent player, a decent leader. But when crunch time came, a lot of his teammates he kind of felt like his teammates were looking at him and he felt like he let him down because he wasn't that guy in crunch time.
And it bees like that sometimes. I mean, again, maybe he just wasn't as talented. Maybe he was overplaying his talent. Maybe he was this level talented, but he was playing at this level when you include the leadership part of it until the big time. Or maybe he was just this level of player, and that's just what it was.
That's just what it was. Yeah, it's crazy, and to think that we've seen it here in this area, but 2 losses could get you sitting at home. We've seen it here with 1 loss. That team sitting at home. So to think things like that could happen. And what's even crazier, so back then, and I haven't really, I would imagine it's many schools they have is pretty much of the same. Could you imagine going through high school playing football and having to go through about 5 or 6 rounds of playoffs to get to a state championship?
Yeah, because they started with 32, right? They started with something crazy because they said quarterfinals after the first game, I believe. I was like, good Lord, like how many games we got to play?
That's ridiculous. I mean, it's fun if you're a football fan. Like, I'm not real talk. So if I was that guy and I lived in Texas and I had one of them jobs, like I ain't had to work on Saturday or something, and I ain't gonna lie, I would probably be that dude, whether my school was playing or not, to probably travel every Saturday to go watch big time football and real life. So I'm just saying. So that probably could be fun.
You know what I saw that later in the movie that I just a random question popped in my head. So you see the caravan heading out to the Astrodome, 6 hours away from Odessa. How did Billingsley's dad get there without getting arrested or killing somebody? Because that man had to be drunk all the way there. That's a long ride, bro.
Did you know who was playing his character?
That's
Tim McGraw.
Yeah, Tim McGraw. Yeah, Tim
and the
McGraw.
Crazy thing was, you already know, I've seen this movie a billion times. It was probably maybe about the 3rd or 4th time, maybe the fourth or fifth time that I saw this movie that I realized that was him because I was
Yeah.
so used to seeing him with that hat on.
He's a good actor, though.
Yeah,
He's a good actor.
I was like, dude, look familiar. And I just never would look at the cast because I knew who the main people were, just never looked at it. And then when I was like, wait a minute. And I'm looking at it, put a hat on. Man, that's Tim McGraw, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't
Yeah.
know if I've ever seen Tim McGraw without a hat on outside of this movie.
This movie and Blindside.
Forgot about that. I forgot about that. Good one.
Yeah.
Good call. Good call.
But yeah, when you see the top of the head part,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tim McGraw, man. But yeah, he was real, man. Like the stuff he put on his son, and mainly because we were thinking it was only because of the fact that he was on a state title team and obviously was a standout on that team and everybody knew who he was. To have his boy come down there with all the size in the world, that's his son, got his name, and things are not going the way he wanted to go. So we're thinking the whole time his dad is just being, feel like he's embarrassed and the whole 9 yards. But we found out through conversation later that part of the fact was that he kind of felt like he was a failure too. It just didn't come out the right way,
But see, that I think that part of the movie was that's probably a bigger deal than it was made. I mean, it is a bigger deal than it was made. Just think about the amount of people, not even the amount of people, just anybody you might know or might have been close to you, whatever, who feel the same way, like their biggest accomplishment was in high school winning a championship, and then the rest of their life is just work or a struggle to get through.
He said that in the movie.
Right.
So like memories, he said, that's all you're going to have.
And on top of that, taking it out on the wife, the kid, whomever, physically, or drinking themselves to death, or just drinking throughout their whole life, and trying to cope with
let's be
being
real
a
too.
failure.
And you know that wasn't his wife, right?
No, not her. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying. Oh yeah, that wasn't.
That was
because the lady left. I guess because the son had to come back to Odessa.
Yeah.
To be
So
with him.
evidently he was living with his mama, and she sent him down there to be with the daddy, and that's what
Right.
it makes out. Of course, the dad had I guess I always assumed that the young lady that the dad had was a little bit younger than the daddy was. Might not have been. Because you can tell because the girl that he brought over,
Exactly.
hey Jenny, whatever her name was, so he may be a little bit older than that girl, but not that much older. You feel me?
Like, oh yeah, we went to high school together. And then add to that, the dad is watching the son and the girl talking about how she's grown up. I'm like, hold on, bro.
Yeah.
This would be a whole different movie if they went more into your life.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, it's cool if you want to be the parent, whatever. Which I've known people like this, but that you cool with the son bringing this, the young lady to the house and whatever. That's one thing. That's your house, right?
Right.
But darn, you looking at the young girl. I'm saying, like you making like, come on, bro, you gotta pump the brakes a little bit, player. I know you was somewhat of a big deal down there in the town, but I know you the guy that can go to the bar, one of the bars down there, and probably walk out with a different woman there and there. But hold on, man, that's a youngin. Pump the brakes.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah, pump the brakes on that one. But I love the way that relationship was portrayed in this one too, especially the touching part about after all they went through, dad comes out there, embarrasses him, first day of practice, and on the field, and people question, you sure he from your gene pool and all this stuff, yelling at him, wrapping his hands up because he's dropping the football, tell me embarrassed him. But the scene when he's drunk in the back seat and they kick the windows out of the car, throws the championship ring, which is really all he has, out the window. And through all in all, to see Don, like, that really means something. Regardless of that means so. When he stops the car and goes to look for that ring,
Mm-hmm.
To me that was truly touching, man. And then the next morning, dad comes in there in a roundabout way without saying he's sorry, and kind of explaining himself. That was deep.
That was deep. I mean, to me, it just showed how I don't want to say trash, but I do want to say trash. The dad was. Dad was trash.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't care. Like he was trash all the way through. All the way through the end. Even with the touching moment there, even with the touching moment later on, he was still trash. He was probably trash the next day after they lost the game, even though we hugged his son at the end of the game.
Man, give man a little bit of slack, man. It's a small bit. You hard on the brother, man. You hard on the brother.
I'm just, it is what it is. It is what it is.
Who you think had? We touched on it briefly earlier, but who had the most pressure? Coach Gaines or Mike Winchell?
Pressure? Oh, definitely. Oh, you know what? No, I was thinking you were saying coach or coach. You're saying coach or QB.
Mhm.
Who had the most pressure? Realistically, coach. Realistically, I think it had to be coach because, again, as you mentioned, all Mike had to do, not all he had to do, but mostly what he had to do was not fumble the ball, turn around, hand that joint off, and keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
So, coach's livelihood, job, place of employment, and maybe life was on the line. There was some heavier stuff on the line for coach, in my opinion. But maybe in Mike's mind, the more pressure was on him, especially being a younger person. And not that lots of us haven't been in similar situations, but still at that moment in that time for him, it may have been a more pressurized situation for him personally.
Yeah, that's tough because just thinking about just the life aspect in general. I mean, we could, Coach tried to talk to him was like, sometimes you're gonna have to, at some point, you're gonna have to let your mom learn to take care of herself and move on and things of that nature. But you can tell somebody that. And like when the guys came to show interest in him from the recruiters
Mm-hmm.
at that school, what was it, like Kansas Wesleyan or something, and he asked him,
Kansas
he was
Wesleyan.
like, how far a drive is that? You know what I'm saying? And he was thinking really about his mother.
Right.
You can say what you want, but imagine going to another state, like far away from your parent, and especially when they're not well, and trying to concentrate on school and football and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he had a heavy burden, man. He had a heavy burden to carry on top of the pressure of actually being the quarterback, and you can't go anywhere in his town, whether you're a man or a woman. They knew what time it was. The question is, you gonna win state? Y'all gonna do this? You played well. That's got to be crazy. Watching Coach Gaines, what you gonna say?
I would say um, he went to Baylor. I wonder how far Baylor was from Odessa. I have no idea.
Right, Texas big.
But
You might think it's here to Henrico, and that joint might be.
I was curious. I was like, what is it? Have you ever read up on why the mom knew so much about football? Like, was it just because she was from Texas? Was her dad like?
I never read up on it, but I've always taken it as if it's just because football was the culture there. Because we saw a lot of women in this movie, even in the stand, they love the game regardless. So
Right.
football is a culture. You grow up, your kids playing it. You probably at every game. You got to go over playbooks. They understand. I mean, let's be real. They probably, I mean, well, no, probably because we saw the posters. Dallas Cowboy fans. I mean, you get to know things about football. You know what I'm saying? Even as basic stuff, X receivers, Y receivers. If you got kids and you're going over playbooks and things like that, it's probably not that hard to, in a place like Texas, to understand.
I don't know. I know grown men who coach football who don't know football. So
They live in
I'm
Texas.
just, I'm just saying.
They live in Texas.
No,
Yes, you know.
they live down the street.
There it is. I would say the same thing, but I don't want to get myself in trouble with some of the brethren in my that I know around here, so I'm gonna leave it alone. Um, but yeah, that was a good question though. That was a good question. But Coach Gaines, what was funny was they got used to moving around a few times evidently because his wife Sharon, Connie Britton's character was like, "We going to move." What the daughter was like, "We going to move again,"
Right.
and his wife started talking about maybe Alaska. They got football in Alaska. She's probably thinking they don't. We could kill two birds with one stone. one, you can still coach football, but two, they probably don't take it as seriously, so we can get up there and you ain't got to worry about losing each other.
Right.
The ice bowl, the igloo bowl,
Mhm.
But Connie Britton is great, man. She's great. If you um, have you ever watched the series, the TV series?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I probably watched the first couple of seasons,
Hmm.
first few seasons. Um, yeah, it was like we watched. I think it was a family show
Yeah.
that we watched.
It's one of those ones you can always go back, and you might not have watched it in a few years. And you're like, you know what? I'd like to rewatch something.
Yeah.
Just the values and everything in that show are tremendous, man. Definitely in my personal Hall of Fame is one of the goats. When it comes to shows, that show,
TV
especially the
show. Yeah.
first 3 seasons, were excellent. And just like most shows, they started to die a little bit after that. The last 2 seasons were okay. I never stopped watching it. Um, but matter of fact, I own the box set. But I love it. I love that show. Might be time to get on that Texas Forever train again. And it's been a minute since I watched it again. So a lot of stuff on TV right now though. I don't know. I'll get to it. But yeah, that was crazy. Um, I guess we can get to some of the differences. And there's a ton of differences in what really happened in real life versus what we saw in the movie. And we understand in the movie, of course, that they have to dress things up or they'll change things to make the movie more interesting and things of that nature. Um, but here's a couple things for you. So, uh, Booby. Booby was actually depicted in the book itself as a fullback, right? So he was actually a fullback and not the tailback. And Billingsley was listed as a tailback and not the fullback. Um, so that's interesting. Chavo or Chavez, what they called him Chavo, was actually, they said where he did play some defense, some plays, he was actually a tight end
Mhm.
on offense. And Avery Christian, who wore number 90 in the movie, his actual number was 62. And he played more linebacker, middle linebacker than defensive end.
Interesting.
Um, One thing that I have known for a while, but when I first found out about it, I was like, really? It was that when Carter and Permian played, it was actually in the semifinal game
Right.
and not the championship. If you remember, if you've seen any of the Carter stuff, they played a school that was like Converse Judson or something like that, and that's who Carter played in the state championship before winning the state championship. And then, of course, we know soon after that is when all the allegations and the things happened about the at least 6 people got caught up in robbery stuff. There was also some less talked about grading scandals going on too, about some of the players' grades got changed so they could play um, in that whole deal. But that was very, very interesting. And then the actual game when uh, Permian and Carter played was a lot closer. I think the final score was 34-28 or something like that in the movie, or whatever it was, whatever the score was. The actual score was like 14-9, and Permian led the majority of the game. It said Carter
Mm.
had to make a few big plays down the stretch in the semifinal game to actually win the game. And then the game itself, when they played, was not at the Astrodome. The game was actually played in Texas, at Texas, University of Texas. They said it was in front of around about 10,000 people, 10, 12,000 people. Um,
Now, that is some creative license right there. That is some creative license. Boy,
Not the Astrodome.
they took all the creative license for that drum.
Yeah. So if you ever get a chance, you could, Brian Austin. Speaking of which, I'm glad my brother jumped in because Brian Austin got to stay after practice. And I hate doing this to my brother. I really,
Mm.
I love that guy. But he just admitted he saw the movie for the first time a couple of months ago. Oh,
Wow.
bro. Come on, bro.
Come on, man.
Come on, bro. So I'm not gonna make you run suicides, Brian. You just gotta say you gotta take 100 shots though. You take 100 shots out to practice, bro. You gotta do better. Um, and it's tough, but as far as differences between the film and what actually happened in the film and the movie, there are a lot more differences in that whole that you probably can read up on. But the ones I gave you were the ones that I thought were really interesting. Um, Especially with Booby. Like I said, Booby actually got hurt in the scrimmage. Booby actually got hurt in the scrimmage and not in actual in the game. So
Was it that early in the season? I guess it was. If it
he
was
got hurt
spring.
early. He got hurt early in the season. So he came in with a lot of hoopla behind him. A lot of people really thought this was going to be the time he was really going to do some things, and he got hurt early in a scrimmage. And to my understanding, that he cut off ties with a lot of his friends and teammates. He was so hurt by that because they really thought that was his. He just knew that was his way out.
Yeah, understandable. Because for some people, it's real life, even though the chances of making it are slim to none most of the time. For some people, that's it. You know,
Man,
at least in their minds.
there was nothing more touching, not it wasn't even touching really, but it was kind of hurt, man. It's like when they remember he was sitting on the porch and he saw the trash man out there collecting the trash, and he got to think in his mind like, I'm thinking like, that's what's next for me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In the classic scene when he goes to the school and he starts clearing out his locker, and the players are looking at him like, "What are you doing? Like, you're not gonna still be here to at least arrive with the team, whatever." And he was, y'all got it, water bug and all this, and gives up his nameplate and all that. By the way, he had the freshest Public Enemy jacket, bro.
Yeah.
The freshest. I want that jacket right now. I need that jacket right now. I might wear that joint in the summer. Like, that's how bad I want that jacket. That Public Enemy jacket was thorough, as well as the Public Enemy tunes. And they bumped
Right.
it. Remember when he was jogging to the stadium at the beginning of the joint? What was he? Was it Terminator X to the Edge of Panic? I think it was playing. I think that's what he was playing in his headphones.
And he had the Terminator. He had Terminator X on his.
That was fire. I need that jacket though, bro. I need that jacket. But yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy, and he held up pretty good. Did you notice he was walking on normal stuff till he got outside and he started limping a little bit to the car?
Hard limp. That's because he had the front for the people, man. He had to fake it for the people, and he was in pain. Dog. Speaking of pain, as much as we love I could see him. Oh man, that had to be a tough decision. I guess in the doctor's office, and not even in the doctor's office after that, and letting him play.
Yeah.
I mean, not that he could really stop him, but he could have stopped. Being the guardian, that's tough. And that's another thing about Coach. Coach was like, you know what? Because he didn't want to be the one to be like, boom, no.
Yeah.
He wanted to just let it play out.
Yeah, that's a tough position to be in. Because he knew the truth, because his trainer already told him, I don't feel
From the
that.
beginning. Exactly.
And he's got to feed off of what LV, Uncle LV and them are telling him, like,
I know y'all lying.
The boy want to get back out here. One, I'm feeling bad because I generally care for the guy. I'm already hurt, football wise, but I care for the guy. And the other, do I want to be the one to have to tell him to derail what I know what his dream is, and what their bank, like that had to be tough, man. Like, had to be tough.
And did that really happen?
Good question. Nah, I don't know that. But speaking of Coach, RIP, Coach Gaines actually passed away this past week. The real Coach Gaines.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Yep.
Yep.
Gary Gaines, Coach Gary Gaines actually passed away. So it was crazy. We had already planned on doing this, this actual show ahead of time.
Right.
And it just actually fell in line with the week of his passing.
Speaking of passing, just real quick, happily belated Kobe 8/23, and then Kobe Day was 8/24. All right.
Yeah. So that was crazy, man. That was crazy. And of course, we found out later that about 10 years later, so Uncle LV, he actually passed away.
He died that year. It was 1988.
It was 98.
Was it 98? I thought it was 80. Okay.
I remember now. in the movie they play. I always thought it was 98, so I need to go back and look at it. I always thought he died about 10 years later.
Okay, okay.
Let me
I
research
thought the
this.
screen said
Now you
88.
know
I
my
could have
eyesight
misread it.
crazy. Mention not seeing that movie, I could be overlooking it. But I thought he died. I thought it was 10 years later. But anyway, um, and we know in real life, Boobie Miles didn't have the greatest, the greatest of times afterwards. He went to a smaller school called Ranger. I don't even know what Ranger is. And he tried his hand at some semi-pro football close to here actually. One of the teams was in Culpeper, Virginia.
Hmm.
And then he ended up doing various other jobs. Had a few brush ins with the law as well. Things didn't turn out well for Boobie. And
It it's pretty wild though. You think about it. For somebody who didn't even play in season to be one of the stars of the movie, and two, have a phrase that people say to this day.
well, let me spin. We put Boobie in. Let me spin.
You wanna win, let Booby spin. Any version of that. You get a lot of versions of that. So
Let me win this
that's
for you, Coach. Let me win this for you. Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
don't,
he
I'm
he's
trying to picture. We do this all the time, but I'm trying to picture who else. Not saying anybody else couldn't pull it off, but he nailed it. Like I wonder who else could have played that character. Like he was a real infectious character on it.
probably somebody that we've seen as a character that walked around with a brush and brushing their hair. I don't know who. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but can you see, the dudes that walk around with the brush and just brushing their hair? Yeah, it would have to be somebody like that. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but that's what I see.
Yeah, he was a true light in this movie. Um, for sure. I don't know if the movie would have been as good as it was and as good as the story was. I don't know if the movie would have been as great without his character. Like one of the first things you think, but like it's one of those movies. Like as soon as somebody mention it, there's like two or three things you think about immediately. You know, my thing is even though it was a sad scene, like what we gonna do now? I'm like that was crazy. You said we was going to the pros. Like that always it jumps in my head. You know, it's funny, but it ain't happy, but.
You couldn't understand nothing that man was saying, dog. And he was doing whole sentences. I was like, what is he saying?
Man, oh man. And lastly, can you imagine? So we know that wasn't real because I don't think in real life, back when they had that coin toss, that three-way coin toss, I don't think in real life they would even let a player be in the room on that coin toss. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
And he wouldn't be one being like, well, this says heads.
They said
It
that
really,
really happened at a truck stop though. They said that part really happened.
that's pretty wild. The whole thing is wild. The whole idea is wild. Like all of that is just wild. Coin flip.
Did you catch Roy Williams, the former? Well, Roy Williams, the former Detroit Lion, then Dallas Cowboy. Did you catch him out there?
Mm-mm.
He was an assistant coach when they played Midland League. Remember, he said he ain't gonna play. Remember when they put Boobie in?
Yeah.
That was a wide receiver, Roy Williams.
Wow. I
There was
did
a
not know.
couple of other people in there in the background. I think somewhere, a person that ended up, I believe, on the show briefly, and in the movie as well. Ty Law.
Really?
Yeah,
I definitely see Ty Law.
I didn't either. I read that a while ago. In more than one point, they said he's in it. They said some other faces in there that in the Dallas Carter squad.
Wow.
And well, I can believe it because half
Yeah.
the cast looked like they was about 23.
Dog. Grown men out there.
That's crazy. So, but yeah, man. What you think about the movie, man? Give me your overall deal. How many beers you giving this flick?
Well, Prime, I've kind of gone back and forth. I was like,
Don't you
do
do
you
that?
want to, huh?
Now go ahead. I thought you wanted to say something. I said, don't do it. No, I'm just.
Yeah, well, I was like, do you want to really stay in the good graces of Prime? Because he ain't gonna like your answer and then I was like, and I'm still watching it at this time, even though it had been a long time since I've seen it, but I was still watching it most recently. I was like, the story it's a good story. It's a good story. I have, like problems with the movie. Not the overall movie. It's enjoyable, whatever. I just don't. I go back to the one mentioned because it's a thing in passing of the lady dropping the N bomb.
That's
Small
nice.
thing in the movie, but they just wanted to just kind of throw that in there. I definitely didn't like the way they portrayed Dallas Carter. They fast, they dirty. Then they show them a holding call. They say that they dirty, and then they're gonna show a holding call. That's what we're doing. I don't like the way they portrayed Dallas Carter. That's a big sticking point for me personally. The movie's cool. It's a cool movie. I think a lot of people love it, and I get it. I get it if you love it. It's not one of my favorite football movies, at all. But it's a good movie. Good movie. Sorry, Prime. 3.5. 3.5 on that thing.
How dare you?
3.5 beers.
How dare
And
you?
that half a beer, I don't even know. That junk will be flat, probably. Yeah.
Clark says, I know what they did was wrong regardless, but thoughts on these women waiting until, oh, I ain't getting into that, Clark. I ain't getting into that. This whole women thing and waiting until the people get famous and, I ain't touching that. Anyway, appreciate you though anyway, bro. Um, Look, I understand what you're saying, the N-word bomb and the way they portrayed them, but my thing is, if you're gonna do a movie, a lot of that stuff with Dallas Carter was true. Like that's if you really read up on Dallas Carter, not just the scandals, but a lot of things that were going on there, there was the culture that there was not great. Um, and you had to have a certain type of coaching staff and certain type of people to actually control those guys. That's just what I've read over the years, right? So if you're gonna portray that in the movie because that's what it is, I don't have a problem with it. If you were making a movie that wasn't based off a true story, then I might have more of a problem with it, right? But you're basing off true events, so I can't, the N-word thing. Do I love it? No, but you know what? This is Texas, bro. This is what these people. It's any state really, but I'm just saying we know how it is. I mentioned it earlier. You can be one of the biggest boosters out there, right? Booby Mile, and you own the car lot, right? And you former Permian player, right? You won the state championship back in '65, whatever. You run the most successful car lot in that area, and you one of the biggest boosters in the school. You help get the coach that you want. They all with the uniforms. It's tight. The stadium the stadium get repair work and get built before you do upgrades inside the school itself. It is what it is, right? But mess
Hmm.
around, let Booby come over there and be dating your daughter. You know the answer to that. So I'm just saying, I'm just saying, I don't have a problem with that because that's what it is or was or whatever. So I can't knock off points for that, right? Am I a fan of this movie? You already know. Am I a fan of this whole story? You already know. I own it on digital. I can go in and read it off of Kindle, whatever, right? I own the book. I own the book also in paperback form. I own the book in hardcover form. Okay, I own the movie in regular and Blu-ray, right? So I love the movie, right? I love everything about it. I'm not a big Billy Bob Thornton fan. I don't dislike him, but I'm not thinking. I feel the same way about Billy Bob Thornton as I feel about Nicolas Cage. I'm not a big Nicolas Cage guy, right? But he will make that one. I feel like he's a person they misplaced him a lot of times, so they'll put him in the movie like, why is he in this? But he'll make one. I say, okay. I'm the same. I don't dislike Billy Bob Thornton. I've done all of the Bad Santas and all that stuff, right? But I'm not a big
I,
Billy Bob
I
fan.
know why. I know why you don't like him, Prime.
Why I don't like him?
You ain't like the way he manhandled Halle Berry and Monsters Ball.
Oh, so now you're gonna put my business out there, right?
I understand, bro. I understand.
Uh, Come on, man.
Prime said, "What about me? What about me?"
Make me feel good. Now, Bad Santa. I done seen the Bad Santas. I done seen the Bandits. I thought he was cool in Bad News Bad. So I mean, I thought he was okay in that.
Right.
But this is the role of all the movies. I've seen tons of this man has done over what's done or appeared in at least 60 films. No joke. You can go back and look. Probably my favorite, if it was a part or a character that he played that I really like, it was Coach Gaines. I'll give him props on this one. Derek Luke, I know people will go back to Antoine Fisher and some of these other joints. I thought he was just as fire. To me, this is my favorite performance by Derek Luke. So Lucas Black. Never been crazy about Lucas Black. I didn't like him. A lot of times I watch him and stuff, and I have a hard time placing him as that character, right? But he's just okay. I think he did a decent job in this one. So I love the movie. And yeah, you give it a 3.5. We ain't even close. Because to me, we've always stated that when we're talking about albums, that an album could be a classic without being 5 mics.
Right.
To me, it fits that mold, right? So I'm gonna do 4 beers and a shot because that's be equivalent to 4.5. And the only thing I knock off of this movie, the only thing is when we talk about Dallas Carter, some of the players I think is about 23, right? I understand what you was doing over there, the scandals and the whole 9 yards, but guys, a couple of people looked at me like, ain't no way, bro. Dude got to be 26 out there. But everything else to me was great in this movie. So yeah, I'm giving this movie 4 beers and a shot. And it is undoubtedly, it's probably my favorite sport. I don't know if I've ever seen a sports movie to me that was a 5. I can always find something. That don't mean I don't love it, because if you're getting 4.5, that means I'm in love with it. Right? I'm in love with the movie. So that's and I probably can find some other 4.5s. No question, I know I can. Right? But this is my favorite sports movie for a whole lot of reasons. So shout out to all involved with Friday Night Lights, the movie, and much love to the books and the television show as well.
Prime owns Friday Night Lights in all formats possible in America.
I got it.
I thought that would give it a 5 and it's up.
I'm just throwing money, you know what I'm saying? But now I'm gonna go 4.5. I'm gonna go 4.5.
Word.
4.5 on it. So maybe one day I'll find something to go back and rewatch it. No, that was it, but I can't. I don't know. I don't think I've ever had a 5 sports movie.
What did you do? You remember what you ranked Any Given Sunday? It's been a long time. But
4.5, something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't get. I know. I didn't give it a 5.
Right, definitely.
But Any Given Sunday is up there. It is up there. It is up there. Matter of fact, I need to go and sneak that in, watch again before a couple of Sundays from now. Maybe after we do our NFL next week, I'll watch it after the show.
Word. Yeah, we are doing the NFL preview next Sunday, which we usually do a thorough, heavy, deep dive into each team. I don't think we're going to deep dive into each team this year.
I think so. If you're not part of the Sports Bar Podcast group on Facebook, SBP, please join. We will be live probably somewhere in 10:30ish area, somewhere in there. You join the group, you'll know.
Yeah, join the group. SBP Sports Bar Podcast on Facebook.
We will be breaking down. We're going to have a couple of conversations about a few things coming up for the NFL season, and then we're going to run through some things. We'll run through some things. We won't go as thorough as we normally do because it takes multiple shows, but we'll touch on enough on a majority of the teams. And then if you're not familiar with us, during the season, we usually pick the best 7 to sometimes 8 games. I know week 1 we're going to have to do at least 8 because I looked at that week 1 schedule, and they've done a phenomenal job with that week 1 schedule. So I'm pretty sure week 1 will be at least 8 games. But we usually pick at least the best 7 or 8 games, and we talk about them, iron it out, pick a winner, and we move on. All right.
Oh, and let's not forget while we're talking about it, So we do the preview of games on Sunday mornings before the games are played that day. The week before, there will be a pick'em contest, a pick'em contest leading into week one. You can hop in that. We usually we do $5, right? It's usually $5 per sheet. Jump in there. We've had as many as 80 people in the contest. So there's always a nice little piece of change for somebody. And did we do second place last year? We did first and second.
I think we did.
Yeah, first and second place. So it's a nice little piece of change for somebody every week. We also do FanDuel. We have a FanDuel contest every week, at least one. We have one for the slate that runs Sunday, and a lot of times we'll do a Monday night single game joint. This season, as for the last at least 5 seasons or so, there will be 2 games on Monday night again. So we'll probably do a separate 2-game contest for Monday night as well. So yeah, Sunday, Monday, pick'em contest. We do the previews, and the NFL season is always lit because we have people coming in and people rep their squad. A lot of you see Prime right there. Like, you already know what that's about. Love it or hate it. I'm an Eagles fan. Although you see Kobe on the shirt, you already know. And yeah, we have a good time fighting for 17 weeks in the regular season and then all through the playoffs.
Yep, and we have, for those of you who can jump on next year, unless you're in the free, we have, we play fantasy football too. So as a matter of fact, I got so much going on. First of our drafts is tonight, actually. So one of you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so they talked me into, and I said I wasn't going to do it. So we ended up with 3 money leagues. I said I won't doing that no more. But
You did a third one? Oh, you
we
got
actually
stuck.
had 4 leagues, 3 money leagues and 1 free. Free is yet to
Wow.
be filled, but that's just because I tried to hold it out for anybody who that didn't jump in any of the money leagues. But we still got a few spots left, so I might just have to have a free fall and you snag the spot, and it is what it is. So, but we
Gotcha.
have I used to call it the Big Dog League, but I'm gonna call this the Godfather League. That's the SBP-ish. We have SBPD Pockets, and the newest that I'm going to keep this name even if we move back to 2 next year. It is the hashtag SBP Related League.
Nice.
So those are the paid leagues, and then of course SBP Game Day is the free league, headed off by my main man Randall. Randall's always the first one to jump in. So I think he did really well last year, actually. So we're gonna have some fun. But the first of the drafts is tonight.
Tonight. Ooh. Okay.
But we appreciate you joining the Sports Bar Podcast, the SBP, and so we can have some fun because football is right around the corner.
11 days. 11 days.
Run it back. That's it for the season. We will see you with running back after football season. Peace.